Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on your Friday night? I am going to tell you tonight about one of the most iconic yet tragic actors in the history of horror movies, Dwight Frye. But I think our biggest, big news, InfoWars here. Nice to see you. InfoWars says, of course, Gully's doing a show of the biggest Frankenstein actor of all time. Yes, I am known as one of the Earth's Frankensteins. InfoWars says he was in all the yes, he was in all the originals. Doc says the Tom Gully show featuring special guest Diana O'Brien, and that was the point I was going to make. Our good friend Diana O'Brien is here tonight. She has had immunotherapy and chemotherapy today, and she's looking fit and feeling fine right this minute. And we have been sending out positive thoughts just about every show to Diana. I know that she's been busy and a little under the weather, so that, she couldn't be here, but you can ask anybody. We always post in our chats and everything else good thoughts for Diana O'Brien. King TL is here. He says, peace and respect. Thank you. Peace and respect right back to you. Hey, before we get going too fast, please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all those free things you can do that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-seeing algorithm. Plus, we have memberships and super chats. We love it when you do that because, Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. But please turn on your gifted memberships. They are in the crawl at the bottom of the show. Very generous people give out these memberships, and then you get that members-only exclusive content that we do. Tomorrow we'll be doing a show that's the best of my podcast, like we did last week. So we'll be doing that. Dirk is here. He says, hello, Tommy. Hello, back to you, H2BH. And we're going to get into Dwight Frye tonight. Very, very interesting guy. Very, very iconic. Very tragic. Very, very, very tragic. And I decided when I was putting this t-shirt on today that I like the t-shirts they have now where they just print the label on the inside instead of the tag that bothers you. I think that should be a federal law that you have to do that. Anyway, so a big Friday night plan for you. Monday night we'll be doing a show on the Tucker automobile. And on Tuesday, we'll be doing Get Smart. But big program note. Sunday night, special Sunday night show. It's a freebie. It's not a members-only show. Our good friend Scott, the internet's greatest irritant and Australian man, will be here to tell us about their version of 4th of July called Australia Day. And he will tell us about all things Australian. We just had him on this Tuesday. Rumpled Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast. Please go to their YouTube page and subscribe to it. It's an amazing show. We had a blast with him. 9 months, time flies when you're having fun, or when you're here, So, you take your pick as far as that goes. But why don't we just get going here? Because we've got a lot going on. We will be turning on the phone lines just as soon as we're done with Dwight Frye, and people can call in and comment. Of course, you're welcome to comment in our chat room as well. Now, just to get you familiar with who Dwight Frye is, the Doctorn. Only show hosts can see this. Thank you so much for the $10, Doctorn. That is very, very, very much appreciated. It really is. That's super kind of you. And thank you for all of your funny comments and your Cajunness, for just being our resident Cajun. That's always nice. Just to get a look at Dwight Frye, that's who we're talking about right there. Okay, and right out of the gate, Dwight Frye was an interesting dude and a little creepy. Not as a person necessarily, but his real full name is Dwight Iliff, I-L-I-F-F. Never seen that name before. Frye. And he was known as the man with the 1,000-watt stare. Okay, I'll show you a picture here in a second that will back that up. He was also known as the man of 1,000 deaths. And he was a character actor, a much more utilized actor on the stage than he was on the screen, and we'll get to that in a little while. He's best known for his portrayals of like neurotic murderous villains, especially in a couple of classic Universal horror films, such as, this one right here, and this would be the 1,000-watt stare. Yes, he was Renfield. He was Renfield in the original Dracula in 1931. And he also played Fritz, not Igor, Fritz, in the original Frankenstein. So the two biggest horror films, really, of the time, and they exist to this day, the franchises, Dracula and Frankenstein, he was in both of them. And in my opinion, he stole the show, completely stole the show in Dracula. And eating bugs off the wall and the whole rest of it. Diana Bryan says, all the good wishes have really, really strengthened me. Well, good, because we're not going to stop. Dwight here was born in Salina, Kansas, and he studied music. And he first appeared as a concert pianist. But in the 20s, he made his name as a stage actor, very accomplished stage actor, and comedies. His stock and trade at that point was comedies. In 1924, he played the son in a production. This is a kind of a heady play, but Luigi Pirandello's 6 Characters in Search of an Author, which was kind of a big thing, okay? Now, he had a few minor comedic roles in the silent movies, but with the coming of sound, he soon became known for playing villains. Lots of villains, usually mentally unbalanced characters, including, and this is his signature role right here, Renfield in Todd Browning's 1931 version of Dracula. And later that same year, he played Fritz. Fritz in Frankenstein. Yes, he was Fritz. He also played in the very first film version of The Maltese Falcon. He was Wilmer, the Gunzel. And he had a featured role in the horror film The Vampire Bat in 1933, where he played Herman, the half-wit suspected of being a killer. He had very memorable roles in The Invisible Man in 1933 as a reporter, and in The Crime of Dr. Crespi in 1935. Now, I believe this photo here is actually from The Bride of Frankenstein, where he played Carl. And originally, and this is kind of something that happened to him several times, he had a big role. It was a much more substantial role. His scenes were part of a subplot, but they cut the subplot to shorten the length of the film to appease censors as well, because there was some very nasty business going on. Your name was mentioned, yes. Anyway, one of the deleted scenes was him killing the Burgermeister. And Nothing Remains. We had the show about wiping or the destruction of old TV shows so they don't exist anymore. Yeah, those scenes that were deleted from the film, nothing remains of them. They're gone, except some still photographs like the one I showed you from the Universal Studios DVD release of the film. He was a guy that also played like prominent background characters a lot. He said that he was in a lot of movies where he was uncredited, completely uncredited, and I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes. He played prominent townspeople in The Ghost of Frankenstein in 1942, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, a lot of Frankenstein movies, and in Son of Frankenstein in 1939. That appearance was deleted prior to release. He also, in the 30s, appeared in 2 Jimmy Cagney films. James Cagney, Doorway to Hell as a hitman, and in Something to Sing About as a persnickety hairdresser in 1937. But truthfully, he was very quickly relegated to playing a lackluster, endless array of crazy people, spies, red herrings, undeserving heirs to fortunes and bit parts. He did, though, occasionally return to the stage in comedies because that's what he really loved. He wanted to be in comedies. Comedies. And, not in the movies. He also was in musicals on stage. He was in some thrillers, and as you might suspect, it was only natural for him to be in a stage version of Dracula, which he was, which kind of, he's painted into a corner. He just had to take these roles. Doc Dorn says, Diana, may Thor keep you strong. Yes, and Odin as well. And even Loki. I'll throw Loki in there. Dildog says, fascinating. Thank you, Dildog, and thank you for being here. Diane O'Brien says, would these movies be on YouTube, Tom? I'm sure a lot of them are, or if not on YouTube, on archive.org. But Frye himself, let's get another shot of him. Oh, by the way, rumpled trench coat, yeah, you get the point. You get the point, and also Doc Dorn gets the point for your kind donations to the show this evening. And anyone donating or celebrating an anniversary with this gets the legendary point from yours truly, from my publicity photo. One of my publicity photos. Here's another one. He's there in the background. I don't know what he's doing, but it's probably evil and creepy. Well, I already covered that. Anyway, Dwight Frye himself was absolutely mystified. He could not figure out why the versatility that he got to show in the theater was completely unnoticed, unwanted in Hollywood, where they made him play all these lunatics and had these parts just yanked out of movies, right? Indeed, the son of Frankenstein, his role was thought to be unnecessary when they switched from making it a black and white movie to color. After his black and white scenes were shot, yeah, they just didn't use them. They just said, yeah, that's okay, whatever. And very tragically, very, very, very tragically, I mean, this is just sad. His son recalls that his father, and then everyone else by all accounts, recalled that this man, Dwight Frye, was a very kind soul. He was like a gentle person, and then he'd go on stage or on screen and be crazy, not just, like not all there, but like evil, creepy, weird, crazy. However, as he became more and more and more frustrated with this typecasting, and as the roles that he could play were fewer and fewer, all right, he started to get frustrated, depressed, defeated, and he started to become a very angry person. The money in the household at this time became very tight. His wife Laura was also an actress. She ended up having to take a job as a sales clerk, and the family began moving to cheaper and cheaper and cheaper housing. Now, his big successes came in the early 30s, and by the early 40s, just a decade later, he alternated between film roles and appearing on stage in a variety of productions, like I mentioned. He was such a gifted stage actor, comedy, musicals, you name it, and that stage production of Dracula. Well, here's where the story gets even more kind of bad after I read you some more stuff. Doc Dorn says some of these might be on Tubi or Hulu. I agree with that. Ariana May is here. Hello, Ariana May. Always good to see you. People saying hi. People saying hi. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. The Wolf is here with us. We'll be talking to him as soon as this stuff's over with, if we can get a hold of him on the phone and when you open the phone lines up. People saying hi, people saying hi, people saying hi, and people saying hi, and people saying hi, because that's what we do here. Most cheerful chat room on the internet is verified by independent sources. All right. Dwight Frye here was, of course, born in Kansas, and he was a devout Christian Scientist. Well, he'd been concealing a heart condition from his friends and family during these very, very, very difficult times for him. And after the outbreak of World War II, he was unable to enlist because of this heart condition. And he took all sorts of night jobs between his film appearances and local theater productions. He got a job as a draftsman for Lockheed Aircraft. But then a big break came along. An uncanny physical resemblance to then Secretary of War Newton Baker led to his being signed to a substantial role in a movie called Wilson, which was about the life of Woodrow Wilson in 1944. This role is coming up, and this could be his big step back not only into Hollywood, but a serious, legitimate, dramatic role. Okay? However, on November 7th, 1943, Dwight Frye, a tired and bloated Dwight Frye, working the graveyard shift as a draftsman for Douglas Aircraft, boarded a bus. It was taking the bus home from one of the legendary movie theaters back when they were palaces. And it was the glittering, spectacular Pantages Theater in Hollywood, where he had just taken his wife and his son to see Sherlock Holmes Faces Death. Very ironically. The bus hadn't even pulled away from the curb, his son later recalled, when my dad fell right in the middle of the aisle, just collapsed. It's very doubtful whether the people on the bus realized that this sort of haggard, tired man was a horror movie legend. He was known as the Man of 1,000 Deaths, and he caused even hardened film critics like Pauline Kael to find themselves suddenly squealing and shrieking. And he is buried in Glendale's Forest Lawn Memorial Park. American rock band guy Alice Cooper wrote and recorded a tribute track to Dwight Frye entitled The Ballad of Dwight Frye that was included on their 1971 LP Love It to Death. Now, the bigger thing about this song is that on stage, this song would be portrayed with Alice Cooper wearing a straitjacket, trying to escape from the straitjacket, finally breaking free at the end of the song and strangling a nurse with the ties, all in good fun for performance only. A band called the Devil Dolls had a 1990 album called Elagabalus, and it featured the photographed likeness of Dwight Frye on one of its booths. SNFU's 1991 compilation album entitled The Last of the Big Time Suspenders features artwork of Dwight Frye as his Renfield character on the front cover. And this is just him talking. This is a quote from Dwight Frye. He said, "If God is good, I will be able to play comedy, in which I was featured on Broadway for 8 seasons, and in which no producer of motion pictures will give me a chance. And please, God, may it be before I go screwy, playing idiots, half-wits, and lunatics on the talking screen." Sadly, it never, ever happened. Starting in sort of the period right after Frankenstein and Dracula, 1931, huge year for him. He was in movies like Attorney for the Defense, The Western Code, By Whose Hand, A Strange Adventure. He was in The Vampire Bat, which is a well-known horror film. The Circus Queen Murder he played in. He was in that production in 1933 of The Invisible Man as a reporter. He was in The Bride of Frankenstein. He was in The Great Impersonation, Alibi for Murder, Beware of Ladies, and then he starts getting these uncredited roles. Sea Devils, he was a radio operator. The Road Back, Small Man at Rally, Renfrew of the Royal Mounted, Desk Clerk, Danger Patrol, Man on Television, a lot, Sinners in Paradise, Adventure in Sahara, Son of Frankenstein. Now he's consigned to just playing a villager and uncredited. Man in the Iron Mask. He played a valet, uncredited. He just starts. The Son of Monte Cristo. He played a secretary, uncredited. People versus Dr. Kildare, uncredited. Blonde from Singapore, uncredited. Devil Pays Off, radio operator, uncredited. Ghost of Frankenstein, villager, uncredited. Dead Men Walk. He played Zolar. Got a credit for that one. But a lot of uncredited roles. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the very iconic, very unforgettable, and ultimately extremely tragic life of a horror movie icon, Dwight Frye. As one of those people that was not in a million things, but he was so memorable in so many roles. People saying hi here. We've got Diana O'Brien welcoming the Wolf. The Wolf says, are we talking about previous spiders? Really any spiders that you'd like to talk about on the program. Maybe Christian Slater will come in here and talk about some like he usually does. Doc Torn says, I have a couple recipes for spiders, Wolf. Wolf says, yuck. I agree with that. But Cajun spiders, blackened spiders. The Wolf says, I guess if we used enough spices. Doc says, man of 1,000 deaths. I reckon 1,000 was his limit. Yeah. Yes, and some liquor. Diane O'Brien says, oh my gosh. And I was going to ask what would be the best of his movies to watch. Well, it would probably be Dracula and Frankenstein. I think Dracula is the one he's best remembered for. Also, as Fritz in Frankenstein, he's outstanding. But I would just go to Wiki and look into some of the films, because as time went along, he played a lesser and lesser and lesser roles in these films. And if you're watching a lot of them after about 1935, it's just to see him in, a scene or two. He was not a very prominent character. The Wolf says, I meant precious. Let's see. I don't know what that means. Let me see if I can get these phone lines open up. Coach Mike Rodick says 1,001. Am I right? Am I right? Yeah, he did have an extra one in him there. But that's just what happened to him. Now, he loved the stage. He kept performing on the stage. He never stopped. But Hollywood was not going to give him a chance. He had been typecast as the weird, crazy guy. And it's tough to break out of that. So not only did horror movies, serious horror movies, experience a decline during a great portion of the time that he was active, the roles that he could play diminished as well. So his film career was extremely dissatisfying to him. And he did have a heyday. He did have his, moments in the sun. And he did play some prominent roles probably for 4 or 5 years after Frankenstein and Dracula, which both were released in 1931. So Dwight Frye, just so iconic, so part of the early Universal horror movies, but then very quickly B-movies and not that great of roles and uncredited stuff. He was a guy that you wanted in a scene because he had a very unique look, very, very great way of speaking due to his stage prowess, right? And so even if he only had a line or two, he made it count. But he just wasn't being considered for legitimate full-time roles. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to tell you about the horror movie icon, Dwight Frye. Also patriotic fella, went to work during World War II. And obviously a very religious fella. Christian Scientist. Hey, because they don't go for the operations and stuff. And he had that heart condition and didn't have it taken care of. And, well, You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. But yes, it did embitter him quite a bit. Our phone lines are open at 972-994-6822 if you'd like to give us a call. I think I'm just going to call the Wolf. We'll see if we can merge some calls tonight. If we can't, well, I don't know what that means. If we can't. But we'll give the Wolf a call. See if he's around. See if he wants to do a little business tonight. See if he's had any liquor. L-I-K-K-E-R, for those of you wondering. We'll see how pervish he thought Dwight Frye was. Pervish, of course, the word for weird or bizarre that the Wolf uses. Says it's ringing. The first call never goes well. Never goes. I can't even hear it ringing. So who knows what's happening? Certainly not I. And it's just sitting there pulsating. What age was Dwight when he passed? I don't know. I nominate Diana O'Brien to call. Everybody likes to nominate somebody else to call. Let me see here. I'll get you Dwight Frye's age at death. Uh-oh. We didn't get a hold of the Wolf. I'll try again. I'll try another time here. It says connecting. I don't know what the hell's going on with. Oh, here we go. This is better. He was only 44 years old, Dwight Frye. Okay.
The subscriber you are trying to reach is not available. Please leave your message after the...
Well, I'm not doing that. I don't know what's going on. The Wolf has like 9 cell phones and 42 cell phone plans. So maybe he'll call us. 972-994-6822 is the number to call. It's in the scroll at the bottom. Oh, he says he's calling in. He's calling in. All right. We'll wait for your call then. We'll wait for your call. I've always had an admiration for Dwight Frye. Wolf ghosted me. Well, it is a horror show night. Tomorrow, members only show, best of podcasts. Sunday, special show about Australia Day. We'll be talking to an Australian from Australia. Diana Bryan says, thanks, Tom. Anytime. And then Monday, we'll tell you about the Tucker, the car, the Tucker. Tuesday is Get Smart. Wednesday, I think, is the vampire fish. Oh, man, this fish, it swims up your parts you don't want a fish swimming up. I answered. It says no answer. Daggone it. Call again. We'll get this sorted. We'll get this sorted out. We're crying out loud. Shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard. I called. I did the concierge level service. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, here comes the Wolf. I'm clicking on the incoming call. Hi, and welcome to the Tom Gully Show. You're on the air. Who am I speaking with? It's Renfield, ladies and gentlemen.
Precious, beautiful, precious, delicious spiders.
Yes. Doc says he needs to turn into Tuesday's show so he can get smart. Yes, would you consider Renfield to be pervish?
Especially when he was held in the mental institution.
The master's coming. The master's coming.
I've never forgotten him eating the spiders off the wall and then, talking about the juicy, delicious spiders with Dracula.
Oh. Yeah, that was... and actually, they kind of had Bela Lugosi using the same lines, like instead of like he'd say in the other one, I think it was The Blood of Dracula or something, where the grave diggers dig him up. They pull the rival sound with Old Pew, where they pull the spike out of his chest, and he's, oh, and they look at each other and they go, "What was that?"
Yeah.
He was saying, "Andreas, come here." Well, in the other one, the first one, he was saying that to the very pervish doctor, instead of saying it to Renfield. He was saying it to Van Helsing. Van Helsing, come here. Come here. He's like, "No, you can't affect me with your voice, Count. Count Alucard."
Well, yeah, and you know what Alucard is, right?
But they couldn't figure it out.
Well, no, I think Universal had the rights to Dracula. So if they wanted Bela Lugosi to play, or anybody else to play a vampire in lots of Hollywood movies, they would use Alucard, which I believe is Dracula spelled backwards.
Well, later they kind of figured out in the movie that Count Alucard is Dracula. In fact, I think most of them, they figure that out.
Yeah.
Later on.
Yeah. I just remember being a kid, and Dracula was such an interesting movie to me. I actually liked Dracula overall as a movie better than Frankenstein. Frankenstein was really only good when Frankenstein was on the screen. But Dracula had all these subplots. The girl that shows up, and Renfield shows up, and Van Helsing's trying to get him, and everything else. And Renfield shows up. I watched it again because I saw it when I was 10 years old or whatever. And I saw it in my adult years, and I had forgotten how normal and buttoned up, put together, had his act together Renfield was before he just went completely mental. Well,
before Dracula got a hold of him, and then it was the same in all the rest of them.
Yeah.
Andreas was a good dude, and then Dracula got hold of him and turned him into a maniac. And a werewolf, I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Well, later they kind of tried to make werewolves and vampires. I probably have 150 or more vampire films. That got to be way more than that.
Man.
They always, later on in the newer ones, they try to make a rivalry between werewolves and vampires. But initially, I think they were supposed to be like the lackeys of the vampires.
Yeah, and they really, during the 40s and into the 50s, stooged up all the horror movie characters. Abbott and Costello had them, and they weren't scary anymore, and they would just throw anything into a son of Frankenstein, son of Frankenstein, second cousin of Frankenstein, guy who was a friend of the gardener of Frankenstein. They just kept going lower and lower and lower down the scale. But that original Renfield, I remember as a kid, I'm like, that guy is eating bugs. Because people didn't eat bugs in movies back then. It was like, wow, that is way over the top. In the laugh, I don't know. It was pretty, unnerving. It's like not a noise that people make traditionally. In a movie or
now they're trying to make them look like the original one, Nosferatu. There's a new Nosferatu out, and I haven't watched it yet, but
I could have watched.
I can't imagine
a couple nights ago. I could have watched it a couple nights ago, but Man, I went to film school. They made us watch the original Nosferatu so many times. I was like, I'm just kind of out on that. It's just, there's so many. I can only watch Nosferatu get scared and do his stare so many times before I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. Rumble Trenchcoat says, what was so great about the Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is that all the monsters were taken and acting seriously instead of laughs. I don't know, man. I think they were pretty. They were. I wasn't scared by Lou Costello seeing Frankenstein and going.
And the Invisible Man.
Oh yeah, Invisible Man. Always, you could see the wires and something would be floating across the room and whatever.
Oh, but that's part of the joy.
It is, without question. The hokiness. I like anything that's hokey, as you know. But do you have like a favorite vampire movie? You said you had a million of them.
I always thought Christopher Lee was the best Dracula that they ever had.
Yeah.
I did like the one with George Hamilton in it.
That was Love at First Bite.
Love at First Bite. And then the one with Leslie Nielsen in it was hilarious.
Yeah, Love at First Bite is really good. There's another one called First Blood or something with Jim Carrey and Lauren Hutton in it that's pretty good. But Love at First Bite, I think my favorite thing about that, first of all, Richard Benjamin's in it, and he's hilarious.
That was called Bitten.
Bitten.
Bitten is the one with Jim Carrey in.
So like,
and Jennifer Beals is the Dracula, the vampire.
I thought it was Lauren Hutton with Jim Carrey.
I think. Well, you know what? You might be right. I'm thinking of another Jennifer Beals one where he was hiding under the. Is that the one where he's hiding under the bed?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, here's the Wolf Wall. I know a lot of you guys like to see the Wolf Wall of media. So somewhere buried in there is either a way to play a vampire movie or an actual vampire movie. But the thing about Love at First Bite, one of the things that was so great about it was Artie Johnson was such a great Renfield. You know, and I think George Hamilton in that one is actually grossed out by all the bugs he was eating. He's like, I've got some juicy spiders and some wonderful earthworms, and it's a triple decker.
When he got lost and went into the wrong apartment, and it was the Hispanics, and they're like, "Look, fried chicken," and they're chasing him around trying to eat it.
Yes, that's right. And when George Hamilton is like been unearthed as Dracula, he's trying to learn the new language, but Renfield gave him a book from like the 20s, so he's like 23 skidoo. Boop boop be doo is all the phrases he was learning were terrible. Rumple Trenchcoat says voiced by Vincent Price at the end. Yes, that was awesome. Doctorn says Nosferatu better than Twilight. Look, Twilight's not even a Dracula movie series. When the vampires when they're playing softball in the afternoon and their out is, well, it was a really cloudy day. I'm sorry. You've look, I like when they put a new spin on things, but you just can't throw away all the attributes of being a vampire and stay there still a vampire. And I don't get me started on Twilight. Diane O'Brien says those were the days, so funny. Yeah, hey, Diane O'Brien is paying a visit to us, Wolf. She had some chemotherapy and immunotherapy today. And she's managed to stay up this far through the show, which I think is courageous.
She's got to be wiped out. Chemo wipes you out.
Yes.
I mean, it turned me into Superman, but it also, after having some of the infusions that I get, you're done. And plus, you're there all day. At least I was.
Yeah. Well, Let's see. Dead and Loving It was the one with Leslie Nielsen, says Rumple Trenchcoat. By the way,
Oh gosh, that was just hilarious.
by the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the free things you can do to help the show out. It won't cost you a farthing to help us with the algorithm, the almighty algorithm. And then also, we do have super chats. We do have memberships. We'd love it when you take advantage of those. And then turn on your gifted memberships, because there's it tells how right down at the bottom there. And you could get and watch the members show tomorrow at noon Eastern time. So there you go. Frankenstein, first of all, I've been called Frankenstein by many people due to my appearance, but I cover up the neck bolts as well as I can. But I don't really, I mean, other than the original Frankenstein, I think there's been a lot of other good Dracula movies. You mentioned Christopher Lee, but there's not as many good Frankenstein movies, although there's a really good made-for-TV one that actually follows the plot of the original novel. And it's completely different than, than the movie versions. Diana says she must be running.
I've probably seen 30 of those Frankensteins.
Yeah.
Well, probably more than that.
Diana says she must be running on adrenaline. Doc says it's a shilling per comment. A shilling. The thing about Christopher Lee as Dracula for the Hammer films, he started off as like not being able to speak. He was very animalistic. He was just, and didn't talk. But as time went along, he started talking. And I also, once I started watching, and of course he played Dracula more than anybody else. It wasn't, okay.
Hammer.
Yeah, I mean in legitimate movies. Bela Lugosi probably.
You better watch out. I'm going to get my hammer.
Well, he probably, but Lugosi probably played him more often. But a lot of them were just awful, just terrible movies, and pretty much all of the Hammer ones were like serious deals. And Doc Torn, you are correct. I'm not using the correct nomenclature. I usually do, but people from a certain podcasting world made fun of me so much I quit doing it. Yes, what most people call Frankenstein is actually Frankenstein's monster. But
yes,
it's just if you say that, people look at you funny, like, okay, guess who thinks he's so smart? So you quit doing it.
Smarty pants.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. All right, you're ruining our good time by being a know-it-all. But yes, Dr. Frankenstein. Frankenstein is the doctor, and Frankenstein's monster is the Boris Karloff character.
Look out, it's the monster.
Boris Karloff suffered horribly from wearing that makeup. I mean, it affected him. His health was really screwed up for several years from that makeup. Hey, our special guest star for Sunday night, all the way from Australia, says, you do think you're smart, Tom. No, I know I'm smart, Scott. I'm smart, so I know it. It's not just conjecture, really. As good as all those funny vampire movies are, I don't know. Young Frankenstein probably better.
Well, it was certainly funny.
Yeah, very funny.
There was another one that was pretty funny, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was I put a spell on you the dun 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 dun. I put a spell on you. And the guy, they're running around with UV lights to kill vampires, and the guy's yelling, "Come out and get me, you filthy, disgusting creatures of the night! I spit on thee." What was the name of that one? It might have had Grace. That might have been the one with Grace Jones in it, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think that was another one. I've seen too many of them. They just all like blend together.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a lot of good vampire movies that don't involve Dracula. You know, Blade and the like.
The majority of them don't involve Dracula.
Yeah, there's a ton of good ones.
It's probably 75% of them don't have Dracula in it, or maybe 80%.
Well, and I'm on episode 453 of Dark Shadows, and that's one of the best vampires of all time is Barnabas Collins.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of them might have been patterned a little bit after that, but they just kind of were modernizing them as they went along. Like there's like 3 of them about the neighbor being a vampire. Once it was a man, and then a couple of times it was a woman.
What about
you have those?
What about Fright Night?
Fright Night. Well, Fright Night 2.
Yeah, Fright Night
was the better one of that one.
Oh God, I thought Fright Night was great with Roddy McDowall and Chris Sarandon and the chick from Married with Children, Amanda Bierce or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Roddy McDowall was like a horror movie host, and they went to him because they thought the guy next door was a vampire. He turns out to be a vampire. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
2 was pretty good too, but it was more pervish. What's her name? Carmen. Oh man, I can't remember her name.
Carmen Electra?
No, Julie Carmen.
Oh, Julie Carmen. All right.
She was. It was a traveling, supposed to be like a carnival. He came to town, and they were vampires feeding on everybody. That was pretty pervish.
What about the vampire in Kolchak, the Night Stalker?
Oh yeah, the dude that was also that played the Vulcan, the ancient Vulcan in Star Trek.
William, what was his name? William.
I can't remember his name.
What about the guy who was in Blackula? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, that M5. He was in Star Trek too.
Yeah,
the one that played Daystrom.
Yes, it was Daystrom, and he was in Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream. Actually, David Niven played Dracula, and it was Dracula 3000 or Dracula 2000.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Dracula 2000.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them that it was just you know.
Yeah.
I finally stopped trying to record them and all that stuff because there's just too many of them, and as time goes on, they get worse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of real low budget, like you and I get together and make one with
our
Super 8
with our phone, with our phones or something.
Using our neighborhoods and our neighbors as actors and actresses.
Well, you had
blood that looks like that you can tell is syrup.
Oh yeah, it's not even that. It's just like Kool-Aid that doesn't have as much water in it. You got like
really horrible.
Frank Langella, that Dracula movie, and then there was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was a big budget one, and then there was the Tom Cruise, the Interview with the Vampire. So
Interview with the Vampire.
You don't have as many Frankenstein movies because putting disembodied parts together isn't as easy to do as the vampire thing. And the vampire series. There's like a 2 or 3 TV series about being a vampire.
Well, there's more than that.
Yeah.
They're vampire detectives. I have the P.N. Elrod series of books where the detective is a vampire. And then I don't have a bunch of Dracula books, but maybe I'll take a picture of my little tiny library of science fiction and whatever. But I'm surprised they haven't made a movie out. Well, actually, they kind of have, because those there's about 3 different shows where the vampire's a detective.
Yeah.
And
there's a book series that's real popular where it's a female that's a detective and a vampire. And then there's a bunch of stuff where a person is a half a vampire. I don't know how that works, but they're not a total vampire. They're like half a vampire.
Daywalker.
Yes, the undead. No, doesn't that mean
He's
living?
a daywalker. You're half vampire, half human.
The undead always struck me as a weird, it's like, well, the undead means that you're living. Well, they're not living. They're not living, but they're not dead.
Well, you know what's really ruined everything is these zombie films have taken over everything. And that's even the one with the girl that's supposed to be a coroner, but she's a zombie, and so she can eat part of their brain and tell what happened, how they were murdered or how they were killed.
I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one?
No, but the thing about the zombie movies, and there were zombie movies before Night of the Living Dead. They were like the voodoo zombies, that were just kind of slow and brain dead a little bit. But the thing is, I've got a version of Dawn of the Dead that it's updated. They're in a shopping mall, but that's the one where the zombies could run real fast. Like real fast, like super, because that was the thing about zombies always, even in The Walking Dead, you can just run around them. They don't move. If there's a ton of them and you're in an alleyway with no exit, okay, yeah, now you got trouble. But when they got fast, when they could really run fast, that's when zombies, I started, paying a little attention.
The Last Man on, The Last Man on Earth, Vincent Price?
They've remade that a million times. Yes, it was The Last Man on Earth. It was a story from Richard Matheson, I believe. And Vincent Price did it first. What was his name? Because it's the same name, and they kept saying his name. Whatever his name was, they were calling to him. But they remade that with the Omega Man with Charlton Heston, and then they, of course, made it.
Well, they weren't really zombies. They were. I don't guess you could call them troglodytes, but they were kind of like that. They couldn't stand the light, but
they were a weird.
They were. It was like a hybrid of a zombie and a vampire or something. But they just. I forget. The whole premise was that some disease got as our wonderful Mr. Fauci, we created a disease that got everybody, and he was one of the only ones that was immune, and then the other chick that he found that was immune.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't immune; she was just slowly turning.
Yeah. Morgan. That's the one with Anthony Zerbe in it is the Omega Man. But then Will Smith made was it I Am Legend or whatever. But Doc says
two of them.
Doctor says sounds like me, not really living, but not dead. He's making babies and stuff. He's living more than most of us.
Yeah, you kind of have to be living to be able to do all that.
Yeah.
Now, I might be able to claim that.
Yeah, that, and he's Cajun, which means he's going to live forever. Those Cajuns, they get up there.
They get that hot sauce. They got that hot sauce down there.
They got a little something on that food down there, Shaw. But I don't remember us watching any of those during the old days with the apparently unwilling to speak to us Brad. It would serve him right if a zombie or Frankenstein's monster showed up and
Well, you got there too late. That was all my freshman year.
Yes.
I think they canceled the movies after we messed them all up. They had what was the one with the Rabbit, and then they had Precinct 13. They had a zombie movie, and we were, oh my gosh, we just ruined them all. I tried to not intentionally do it, but Ludek and Rawson would start something, or Raleigh would start yelling something. Hey, Warfield, is that your dad? And I'd go, no, it looks more like yours. We'd start yelling at each other. People would be, quiet down. And, we're trying to watch the movie. And I said, so am I. Unfortunately, someone won't let me. And we'd start going back and forth at each other again. And then Dean would always be drunk and would lose control of his little fifth of whiskey, and it would go tinkling down the steps.
You remember those movies they used to show over at the student center? The steering committee would get them, and some of them were okay. I remember there was one. It was a monster movie, and there was like a Japanese gardener that was snooping around where he shouldn't have been, and the monster killed him. And I got kicked out because I yelled, "Remember Pearl Harbor." Kicked me out. Oh, we get to find out who produced the first multi-reel feature-length film ever, and it's gonna be somebody in Australia. And I'm gonna fact check it, and it'll be only slightly correct. But this guy is so, and I don't begrudge somebody being proud of their country, but some people can take it too far. Stella's with us, H2BH, which means happy to be here. And of course, Stella, a star of one of the greatest horror films of all time, The Red Rooms. More of a psychological thriller, but I would call
like
it a horror film. Oh God, look up The Red Rooms on the Pod Awful network. Oh boy.
You know what I thought of the minute you said red?
No.
Red rum, red rum, red rum.
Hello, Mrs. Torrance, with the finger. Hello, Mrs. Torrance.
Do you do, Mrs. Torrance?
Yeah, that's just a creepy movie. I don't know. I can't watch it too many times.
They interviewed Kubrick about that movie.
Well,
I was watching it on YouTube.
Stephen King was mad about that movie because it's nothing. It doesn't really follow the book that closely. It kind of does. And so he remade a TV version of it that was actually true to the film. Jared is here, H2BH Jared. He says, very creepy. What's the creepiest monster movie you've ever seen? I mean, because I don't get that scared by monster movies too much. There's too many of them that I'm like, shoot him, set him on fire, bust him in the chops. If he's going to kill you anyway, you might as well stab him in the eye with a fork or something, and nobody ever does that.
You got to remember that we grew up with WTTV Channel 4, and you saw everything when you're a little bitty kid. You look at all this stuff, and pretty soon it's like, well, I've seen better than this. What do you mean this is scary?
Yeah. Well, the movie, and I just saw it, in the last 3-4 years. There's a movie called Hereditary that just creeps me out. Like when it was over, I turned the lights on in the next room in advance, and that's I have light on this room, and I would walk into the next room, turn the lights on and off in the other. I don't get that scared by movies. Our good friend from Australia, Scott Green, said Saw, the puppet master, is a scary monster. I don't know. That movie to me was just sport killing.
I think Cube was scarier than that, because you never knew what the heck was going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of the traps in there were like, well, You can saw your.
And speaking of creepy, Hellraiser was just about as creepy as you could get.
Let's see. Rumple Trenchcoat, a Columbo podcast, says Lake Mungo was a really good documentary type horror movie. Well, that's the thing now is they make these documentary types. Now, I've been entertained by some of these movies, and especially if you're going to do the documentary type, they're making it or they're shooting their own film. I know a lot of people that didn't care for it at all. I liked Cloverfield quite a bit. I thought it was really good.
That was a great film.
Yeah, I really liked that. I didn't care so much. I mean, Blair Witch, if I hadn't gone to the website, I think that movie was great at incorporating the website and a lot of legend and rumor from online stuff so that when you watch the movie, it made it a little better. But then you start getting into the last third of that movie, and it's like, could someone kill all three of these people, please? I'm so totally over all of them. They just are a bunch of whiny. Rumple Trenchcoat says, I do like found footage type movies. So do I. I think they're really good. But so what's the last movie that scared you?
My Nightmare.
Okay. I think the scariest movie of all time is when.
Would you like me to tell you about My Nightmare?
Yes. Well, yeah. Sleepless in Seattle terrifies me. That someone would go back.
I had these nightmares. This is another reason that horror films never scared me. I had these nightmares when I was a kid, and one of them, I actually wrote it, and then I ended up destroying it. I wrote a book based off of it, and then I destroyed it. My mom could never figure out why I would do all this. I would make portraits and books and stuff and then destroy them because I didn't like them. I called it The Witch Hunters, and it was Halloween, and monsters were going from door to door and asking people if they were a witch, and if they weren't, they would hang them with a garrote. And they got to my door. And it was the old, all the stereotype stuff that goes on in a nightmare. You're running as fast as you can, and you can't outrun them as they poke along behind you. And so they knock on the door, and they said, "Are you a witch?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "You're lying." I push by them, run out the door, and I can't outrun them as fast as I am. And so, knowing that I'm not a witch, I'm like, what am I going to do? And it's fall, obviously, because it's
Halloween.
October.
Yeah.
I stop, motion at a oak leaf. It becomes giant. I jump on it and I fly away, and that's how I escaped them. At the end of the nightmare, the leaf stops flying, and I fall into a black abyss, and then I wake up screaming. That was my nightmare.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
there's better ones, too, more bizarre than that.
Jared says Hellraiser really freaked me out as a kid. But Scott Green, our friend from Australia, who will be on with us for a very special episode with a very special guest star, Scott from Australia, telling us about Australia Day. He says the creators of the Saw series are Australian, Tom. Well, good. They made Wolf Creek, didn't they, in District 9? Anything you guys do we've done better things. I'm sorry. Anything, if Mad Max only showed in Australia, it wouldn't have been anything. But you showed it over here. Even the things that you have, we make popular. It won't survive on its own over in Australia. Stella said it scared me as a kid. Hellraiser, because Stella's in the red rooms, or Australia. Maybe Australia scared her as a kid. I don't know.
Well, being able to...
Stella's the one that was showing Nosferatu last night, or the night before. I was tricked into seeing it. Oh my God. Oh, it. Oh, it. No, she's saying it scared me as a kid. Not it scared me as a kid, but
Oh,
it,
that
the
creepy,
movie.
the creepy clown.
Yeah. Yes, and Christian Slater, well-known Hollywood actor, is a freak for spiders. He says arachnophobia is the scariest movie of all time. And it's not Eight-Legged Freaks. Stella said the movie the movie It scared you as a kid. The movie It's just a few years old, isn't it? Are you thinking of the mini series with Richard?
I think there's 3 of them.
Oh, okay. Because I've got the mini series. I've got it on DVD. The one with the John Boy in it, and the guy from Night Court. I own that one, and the worst spider effects. They got a giant spider, and it just looks like it's paper mache. Beep beep, Richie. Yeah, well, Doc, it's worse than that. I have the TV miniseries for The Stand, and me and a friend of mine always go, MOON spells the wolf. MOON spells jaguar. You know, MOON. MOON.
What was the one that's where it's a small town and this monster is like tearing people apart? That one was pretty gory.
That's a lot of them.
I can't remember the name of it.
Urquhart says.
I've seen too many of these films.
What now?
Something Creek.
Well, there's one called Wolf Creek, but it's about a guy that picks up some hitchhikers, and it's Australian. Urquhart.
This is out in the sticks. It's a small town, and it's not a werewolf, but it's kind of like that, and it's just tearing people apart, and they can't figure out where it's from or why it's there. What was that called?
Urquhart says Gremlins messed me up for a while as a kid. Many nightmares.
Gremlins?
Yeah, Gremlins didn't scare me at all. But I'm not easy to scare. Like Evil Dead kind of creeped me out, the first one. But Hereditary, dude, you got to see this movie. It's really gave me the.
Not sure that I haven't.
Gave me the willies. It's only a few years old.
I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, it's only a few years old, just a couple of years old. But yeah, tons of. What was the Heather Thomas vampire movie? I can't remember the name of it. Strib says Hereditary creeped me out too. Oh yeah, the ending of. Well, it's creepy all during it. Scott Green says, I've never been scared by a movie. Well, no, you don't do that sort of thing in Australia. You know what?
I saw a Dracula one that I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, but the guy is like and this is one of the cheaper ones. The guy is an EMT and finds this girl in an alley that's just been turned and is like keeping her in his apartment. And it ends up that he's like grabbing girls and bringing them in, and then of course he dispatches them, and he's got to hide them in this life-size freezer. Have you seen that one?
No. Lisa says Scott's only scared of kangaroos. Well, you know, a kangaroo can kill a man with its hind legs. You know, that's pretty astute, Lisa, because the scariest thing I've ever seen from Australia in terms of entertainment is Skippy the bush kangaroo, which is like this bush kangaroo that's the Lassie of Australia. They just basically took our Lassie idea and tried to make it Australian. Dirk says, P scares me. P. So, there you are. Yeah, zombies took over everything. Another movie with fast zombies was that World War Z.
Oh, yeah. where they're piling up on each other to try to get over the wall in Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has to
I knew that was going to be a zombie movie when I saw the name. I was like, wait a minute, not another zombie film. And sure enough, it was just better done than the others, a lot of them.
Whoa.
But figuring out that you got to be loaded with diseases before they'll just leave you alone.
Yeah.
Zombies that are picky.
Yeah. It's the zombie movies are good, but there's just too many of them. Can we just vary it up a little bit? The thing about Hereditary is it's all mystery and gore, and it's just no, seriously, that movie will mess you up. And I know you have ways of watching things. You should watch Hereditary.
I can see it.
Try and watch it during the day. Dirk says Tom is a right winger for sure. No, actually, I played center forward. The Rumpled Trenchcoat of Columbo podcast, again, go there, subscribe. 28 Days Later was the first one I've seen with fast-moving zombies. I don't know when they started that. And 28 Weeks Later, says Lucas. I don't know when they started that, but... Oh, let me see here. Christian Slater says the original Fly was scary. I love the end when he's saying, "Help me,
Help me,
help
help
me."
me, help me.
And the Jeff Goldblum version of The Fly, I thought was pretty good too. I didn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It was really good, but a lot of good horror movies. I'm disappointed that UK horror scene isn't in here with us tonight. Strib says When Evil Lurks was a good spin on zombie-ish monsters. I'll tell you some movies that didn't scare me, and they made way too many of them, were The Howling. I thought that was just dumb as hell. Scott Green says Brokeback Mountain is the scariest movie. I just can't quit you. Christian Slaver, The Fly from the 80s was superior.
Do you remember lines from that thing? I just try to block it out of my mind.
That's the one that's the only line anybody ever said. Rumpled Trenchcoat, I've never seen the movie. I just know the line. They had to do several takes of that scene at the end of The Fly because Vincent Price kept laughing at how dumb it was. Well, I mean, if we're going to go that far, I think just if you want really good cheese in a horror movie, I don't know that you can get any better than the Dr. Phibes movies with Vincent Price.
Oh, I love those.
Aren't they great? Aren't they the greatest?
They're the best.
Yeah, they're super good. Super good.
I just watched the second one. It's probably last month.
Yeah, they're both.
They used to show those all the time on television, and then they just quit showing them.
Well, you know,
I have no idea why.
That's too bad, given the success of like Final Destination, that whole franchise, and the Saw movies that Scott mentioned. The Dr. Phibes movies kind of followed the plagues and all that from the Bible, but they're basically a series of inescapable ways to kill people. And that seems to be...
Valnavia. I liked all those Valnavias, I'll tell you.
Yeah. The nurse...
Valnavia, and then the other one was... what was her name?
Well, I don't know, but the nurse that
Victoria.
The nurse that gets the chlorophyll, the nurse that he gives the sleeping pill, and she goes to sleep, and then he puts the chlorophyll all over her face, and then releases the locusts, and it chews her whole face up. Hard Archivist says never trust a Canadian. Christian Slater says, has anyone seen my movie Heathers? Yes, you were great in Heathers, Christian. If I was going to make any sort of criticism, not enough spiders in that movie. Rumpled Trenchcoat says Heathers was great. Jared says, I did, Christian. Loved that movie. It was a good movie. But Yeah, it's hard to scare me with the movie. It just is. I will say though, the first time Sammy Terry came on, Sammy Terry, for those of you wondering who that is, the Wolf and I, as he mentioned, watched a show called channel called WTTV4, and Sammy Terry was their late night monster movie host on the weekends. And the first time, when the moon is full and the wolfbane blooms, I ran screaming from the room, which is really embarrassing when you consider how bad his makeup was and the sound effects. And
Oh, it was.
dumb
Oh, come on now, it was the best.
You remember
He'd
George?
come to our theater.
George
He'd
the
come to our
Spider.
theater every year, and we would hit him with peas and spit wads.
They had a rubber spider named George that he would talk to that they just dangled on a wire. And, well, George, I guess maybe we'll find out if Dracula, like, whatever.
Towards the end, didn't they have George going, making little noise?
Yeah, he would. He would. Rumpled Trenchcoat says, my wife can't sleep on her back because of that scene in Dr. Fives with the locust freaked her out. It freaked me out. And it violates, see, one of the things that I won't stand for in a movie is when hot chicks get killed. That's uncalled for. That's just a waste of film. Lisa says, boy band was horrifying. The acting was definitely on point, especially the part where the guy talks about ripping certain skin. Christian Slater says, agreed, Tom. Heathers could have used some more spiders. Strib says, Christian Slater, you kicked ass in Equilibrium. Lucas says, everyone fears The Cube. A lot of people say...
Oh, Equilibrium is just about my favorite film.
Scott Green...
Increasing lethality by 120%.
Scott Green says his wife can only sleep on her knees now. Isn't one of the main actors from The Walking Dead, isn't Herschel? Isn't that actor's name Scott Green? Yes, and he's older, way older than you, so they didn't invent that name in Australia. Christian Slater with what has to be dozens of spiders, and then it just says spooky.
Here's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Why do you call kangaroos wallies?
Okay, Scott. Why do you get? And by the way, more questions about Australia. Sunday night, 8 p.m., regular time, different day. We will be talking to Scott Green live from Australia about Australia Day, and that is their 4th of July. Scott Green says Australia has the most spiders. That could be true, but I don't care. The thing that's notable about Australia and spiders is you have the most deadly poisonous spiders. And I know that's true. The Sydney funnel web. Is there even an antidote for the Sydney funnel web? I don't think there is. Doc says, Tom, Wolf Chat, I'm calling it here. My team is on call this week and work calls. May the old gods be with Diana O'Brien. Hey, Doc Torn, thank you so much for joining us. Be safe. And thank you again for the kind donation. I very much appreciate it. Scott Green from Australia says, both are true. You have the most and the most deadly. Well, the ones that aren't deadly, I don't care about. They crunch under my foot just as easily as the ones here. It's the deadly poisonous one. And also in Australia, they have that huntsman spider that's like the size of a dinner plate and crawls up the side of people's houses. People saying goodnight to Doc Dorn. Christian Slater says, Scott, are you preparing lamb slop for Australia Day? What do you know about Australia there, Wolf?
Probably quite a bit more than I should.
Like what?
Well, the one thing I don't know is why they call kangaroos wallies.
Yeah, why don't you tell us that, Scott? What's up with calling kangaroos wallies or those wallabies or what's going on over there? You guys got different names for everything. Call a beer Stubby, a girl's called a Sheila. You're always talking,
baby.
Yeah, putting a shrimp on the Barbie. Billy Zane. Oh, Billy Zane, another famous actor. Loved you in Titanic. My favorite are dock spiders, the Titanic spiders. I never, spiders creep me out, man. And especially, you were talking about it here in the chat room recently, those jumping spiders, the little ones that you think, oh, this is I'm going to make short work of this one. And then they go dip, 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 real fast. Hate those damn things.
There's a lot of people that make pets out of those.
How?
They just do. They're actually appear to be kind of like pets. I mean, there's a couple of YouTube. There's one YouTube channel for sure where she has, oh my gosh, it looks like 15 or 20 of those things in cages and glass terrariums. That they come out, they crawl on her, and they sit and just kind of hang out. And
is that really a pet?
They look at her and watch her and do a bunch of stuff like they're like that, just like a cat would.
Yeah, but
it's weird.
But, I mean, do they come when you call them? Can you put a little string around their neck and use it as a leash? It's just, to me, like when people have tarantula. Remember that weird kid in junior high that had the tarantula always, and everybody thought it was so cool. And I'm like,
his name was Tim Bitzer.
Yeah. Oh, everybody remembers that kid. But it's like, hey, guess what? You just keep it in a glass case. It's not like, it's not a pet. Scott Green says wallabies, different animals to kangaroos and tree kangaroos. All right.
He still hasn't answered what's a wally. Why do they call him a wally?
Well, he's saying that wallabies are the wallies. The Christian Slater with a bunch of webs, a bunch of spider webs. Diana O'Brien says, yes, I've got to go now. Enjoyable subject tonight. See you all soon. Diana, so good to see you. So good to see you. Hang in there. We're all keeping a good thought.
Get well and keep fighting just like I am.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
No, don't give up. Wolf was, you were stage, was it 19?
Might as well been. They said I had tumors all over my body.
Yeah. Well, I knew you were going to get past that. I mean, I told you. Rumple Trenchcoat says, night, Diana, get well. But yeah, I remember I said, no, life has taught us anything. It's that you're relatively indestructible.
Chuckle. Not even close. Yeah, I unfortunately had conversations with a lot of people who, one of which was, he was Iranian, and he was the guy that when they were fighting the Iraqis, that they were sent out to find, landmines and stuff. And he told me, he said, Kim, if I was, paralyzed like you or anything like that happened to me, I'd just shoot myself. And I said, are you crazy? So they're going to have to carry me out of here kicking and screaming. I'm not giving up. Like, I lost any of mine. I'd just say, put a prosthetic on there and go on about my business.
About your business. Yeah. Well, and maybe Brad would talk to you on the phone if he knew you were ill. You should have said that.
No.
Brad.
Didn't work with Decker.
Brad, I just, I'm suffering from this cancer, and I just kind of wanted to talk to somebody from back in my old...
I'm really weak right now. I'm really small and vulnerable physically, and, if somebody was to attack me now, they could probably get the best of me.
Uh-huh. That is such a disappointing thing that Brad doesn't want to even talk long enough to say, hey, Wolf, sorry, but man, I just want to forget those days. I hope you're doing well, but no thanks, bye. Not even that, just passive aggressively blocked you. I'm wondering, because you called him and then you called him once or twice more over a period of weeks. And I'm thinking if it's the Brad I know, he needed that time to learn how to block you on the phone.
I don't know.
Yeah, well.
It could be maybe something's wrong with his machine. It was full or something. But usually it'll tell you when somebody's answering is messaging is full, it will say full, can't take a message or whatever.
You gotta
hang up.
Call and leave a message with like somebody, or go through a website where you pretend to be like a big client or something. This is Bigsby, and I want to buy more of what you have than anybody in history. Give me a
This
call.
is Biff Brannigan, and I need $3 million worth of. What is he even doing? Was it insurance? Oh, it's financial planning.
Something.
I've got $3 million that I want to. He would know somebody was up to something.
Well, Scott Green, the Australian guy, is Wolf offering himself to be taken by this guy, and I corrected your incorrect words in there for you, Scott. You're welcome. No, Scott. See, when we were in college, the Wolf is a giant power lifter, former football player, and he had a roommate that was a wrestler in high school, went to a pretty decent wrestling school, and he would only try to wrestle the Wolf after the Wolf had just gotten done with a huge workout and was completely spent. And then he would want to show off his wrestling prowess. So that's why the Wolf was saying, now that I have cancer, you might be able to attack me while I'm, in between chemo treatments or something. So,
Do you know Decatur High School is like 6A now or 5A or something?
oh, everybody
That sound right
is.
to you?
Yeah, I mean, Fisher's is 6A. Hamilton Southeastern is 6A. There's a lot of places that didn't used to be that are now giant. Of course,
It's ridiculous. I sent it to you. You were probably getting ready for your show, so I doubt if you saw it. But I sent you a list of the top 10 state champion football schools, and guess what? Carmel has 7. Warren has 8.
that's okay. Some of
And
our
then South Bend. Oh, I'm sorry. Ben Davis has a bunch. They have like 9, I think, and
Yeah.
then.
Sheridan.
Actually, Cathedral has 12.
Sheridan has a bunch. But
Well, it starts with an R. Rudlinger or Rudlius or something that's on the east side of Indianapolis, I think, has got 11. I can't remember the name. It's a weird name.
Not Roncalli. Well, here's the deal. We beat Warren a bunch of times in the state championship. They've beaten us in the state championship, one of which is like a legendary bad call that we got hosed on. Like even the Warren Central people were like, yeah, but see, it doesn't matter because go to the other sports. Who's at the top of the list of those too? Who's got more than anybody else? I mean, we've got 100.
Well, obviously, swimming is like owned by Carmel.
Yeah. We haven't lost the girls' state championship. We've won it every year since 1986. I mean, we got 172 state championships, and that's just, we could have gotten more, and I didn't pay attention. Of course, we've got 2 state runner-ups in soccer that I wish were state championships.
Cathedral's probably got a bunch in basketball, I would think.
Carmel's got a bunch in basketball. I think we got 4, maybe. Good night to Diana. Get well. Only Following Cows says, I can't believe this is a black man speaking. He sounds so educated. That's not
What?
that's not quite Thunderbolt of Justice. I think it's a compliment.
Well, I'll be honest with you. He's probably right. The majority of, and I'll tell you, I've probably told you this before, but
Yeah.
Fitz gave me the number of a scout to call to come look at me when I was going to, I think it was, I forget whose camp it was. It was in L.A. I want to say it was Kevin Green's camp or something.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he says, Wolf, call this guy, tell him that I told you to call him, and then go do a workout for him. Says, but remember this, it would behoove you to use a bunch of, like I said, He said, throw some of those in there so that he knows you're black, because he ain't coming all that way to look at some slow white guy. Started laughing.
Well, you are a crowd favorite. You are
in so many ways.
Yes, you were on the list for maybe someone heard you speaking, and that's why they thought, over the phone or something, they thought that you would enjoy the Thunderbolt of Justice newsletter.
No, it's because all the armed forces stuff that I first of all, if you get anything from Paladin Press or the Anarchist Handbook or any of that crap,
yeah,
you're on a list.
Yeah.
And I was getting handguns and guns and ammo and rifles and that kind of stuff. I had all the publications from all the manufacturers. I wear usually enforcer boots or that kind of stuff because they're waterproof and they're light. In some cases lighter than high top basketball shoes.
I know, and I know how important it is for you to have quick feet.
Of course. Yeah. I have to have quick feet. Of course, I'm small, but I am a stick of dynamite.
Well, I know you're a stick of dynamite, but you're not small. Myself,
I've actually gotten bigger again.
Myself, I was athletic and wiry, but with cords of muscle.
Of course, you are forgetting that I'm as pleased as punch on the outside, but very pugnacious underneath. That's a Dr. Smith line.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I got there, I was real skinny, but not when I left. But I was still very, I had quick feet, athletic.
We're talking about, John would call me. Initially, it was explosive. Yes, but is he explosive? And then later,
explosive.
The catch word was, does he have explosive power? So they're talking about offensive and defensive linemen. So he would call, instead of saying, yes, but is he explosive? He'd say, yes, but does he have explosive power? and then he'd hang up. One time he left a message about Joe Paterno, which I used to make fun of because of his glasses.
Yeah, Coke bottle glasses. Sure. Yeah.
And John said, Jopa.
Yeah, Jopa.
He has explosive power, and then he hung up, and I started laughing.
His windbreaker. Anyway, who do you think is the most athletic, quick feet, explosive between Dracula and Frankenstein?
Well, obviously Dracula's. He's a speed merchant.
Yeah, but don't you think Frankenstein might have more explosive power?
Well, that Frankenstein, he's big enough to hunt bar with a switch.
With a switch. We ought to do a show someday on all of the sayings, the hillbilly sayings that we learned growing up in Indiana.
The thing is that's what I was putting up hay with these guys. And I don't remember where these guys came from, but they were shocked when they said, "Hey, you want some of this watermelon?" And I said, "No, I don't like watermelon." They were, it was like, "Oh, what?" the shock on the. It looked like someone had just shot their wives in front of them or something.
Scott Green, because he's just the way he is. You'll see on Sunday. He says speed merchant means a different thing coming from a black man.
It does.
Well, no, he's like you're a drug dealer.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. That's
He's not into the athletic lingo.
No. Well, he's from Australia.
See, Scott, my lifelong friend was an NFL scout. Before that, he was a Canadian scout. And he was constantly trying to get me to join the ranks of professional scouts because he would call me to ask me about what I thought about players, where they should go in the draft, and what their pluses and minuses were. So he'd already gotten I think he got 6 guys jobs in the NFL. A couple of them with Philly, the Steelers, the Seattle Seahawks, and I forget who else. But I told him, John, I don't want to be on the road 360 days out of the year going from school to school and blah, 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 and doing all the crap you got to do. I don't like being in a different motel every other day.
Yeah, I mean...
It's a terrible life.
Well,
really is.
But I mean, the deal is that the scouts all use certain terminology and quick-footed, quick feet, athletic, speed merchant. And here's the thing about Scott. No matter what you say that you do or someone else does, he will immediately say, I am a professional scout. You don't have to tell me. And it doesn't matter. If you say you're a lawyer, well, I'm a lawyer. I drive a garbage truck. Well, I also drive. You don't have to tell me. He's in
Australia, so he's not an NFL scout.
No, he's not an NFL scout, but he'll tell you about their football. Aussie rules. He knows a lot about those, and I do enjoy watching it with him.
I used to watch Australian rules all the time.
We all did when it was on a decent hour on a decent station, but and I love watching it with him, but I sometimes think he doesn't understand that I don't follow the teams and or remember very many of their names. He's, Geelong's playing Adelaide. This is going to be a great one. And I'm like, yeah, of course it will. Geelong, are you kidding me? I don't know a damn thing about it. But it is. It's a great. It's a great. It's a great sport. I always thought I thought.
Rugby.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, no, it's just a great sport. I always thought I'd be really good at it because of the goalkeeping. I can go up and get the ball, and then I've got that legendary, thunderous kicking ability. But yeah, that sport takes a lot of skill. This is a good sport. I like it better than rugby, personally. I think it's more free-flowing than rugby, but I like rugby, Here you go. Scott's, I am an NFL scout. All the Australian NFL players were scouted by me, which is not true, but he will maintain that it is. You could
I hate to tell him, but they were scouted from the college schools that they went to, and they're all kickers.
Yeah. So, but he will not surrender. You can come up with all. No, it says right here, Bill Schmorgensen was scouted him when he was in Aussie Rules, and he's the one that brought him to the States. In fact, he lived with him the first 3 years he was in the NFL. No, I'm afraid I'm the one that sussed him out. It's just. It's going to be a fun show Sunday night. I can't wait to hear what he has to tell us about Australia. Because
you mean the universe revolves around him in relation to the background stars?
No. Well, yes, but more Australia is responsible for anything good in the history of the world, and
got it.
Yeah. He says that's his alias. He'll tell me that all of the U.S. military defense communications run through Australia. If it wasn't for Australia, we wouldn't be able. I'm like, do you know anything about the United States military? I don't think they're going to leave it up to Australia to keep them connected or whatever it was. But we'll get into that Sunday night. See, he's already starting all of this. But it's going to be a bull in a china closet on Sunday night. And I am very earnestly excited about hearing all the things he has to say about Australia.
I've read a lot. I've seen a lot of programs. I mean, it's probably as accurate as stuff that people see about the U.S. So
yeah,
I've watched a lot of their TV series that they used to have. I've watched several of those. I've watched some of their detective shows. So I've seen some of the movies from there besides Mad Max. Some of the murder,
Gallipoli.
murder stuff.
You gotta watch Gallipoli.
Run as fast as I can't remember the rest of it, but yeah. Mel Gibson.
It'll be good. Be good. We'll have a nice time.
I've been very interested in the little penal colony for the Brits.
Yes. Well, he'll skip over that part. We won't talk about that. That'll get skipped over. But anyway, all right. I got to get out of here. I got to eat.
I got to get going.
Yeah, I appreciate you being. Jared says can't wait till Sunday's show. Cannot wait. Yeah, we got to figure out, man. I think it would be a good show. Just all the sayings that we had to put up with growing up in Indiana. Like I like to never.
Oh Lord.
I like to never got that car out the ditch. Boy, I like to never seen that fella come back with that tire iron. I like to never. You would like to never. I don't even understand it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, my friends kind of that were basically farmers.
Yeah.
They have a lot of weird stuff that they used to say.
Yeah.
Born instead of barn.
Yeah.
What the heck is a barn?
A crick, wash, don't just give it a lick and a promise. Lick and a promise. Anyway. All right, man. Well, I hope you're doing good, and thanks for being around the show, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. Goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye, Daddy.
Goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye, Daddy. Remember, I want a bush baby.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Oh, God, the wolf. He's the funniest dude. Anyway, it was great seeing our good friend Diana O'Brien. Of course, we got to give the point to Doc Dorn, who's not here, but was kind enough to donate $10. Also, we have Rumpled Trenchcoat, who's been here for 9 whole months, and we've loved him for every moment of that time. He's been a great member, and also a special guest star this week on Tuesday, and an expert on Columbo, as well as many other things, as you guys see in the room. Excuse me. I'd like to thank all of the good folks from the Pod Awful cult who joined us tonight. Scott and Jared and Hard Archivist and Only Following Cows, whose name I will not dox, and Christian Slater and Billy Zane here to see us. Stribs, Lucas Malago, all of them. Lisa was here. Wow, it was really great for you guys to drop by. I appreciate it. Very much appreciated, as well as everyone else, all our other cast of regulars with Doc Torn and Rumpled Trenchcoat, and of course our good friend Diana O'Brien, who just went through chemotherapy and immunotherapy today, and we hope that she is doing very well. Stella, who just introduced a bunch of people to that Nosferatu movie just a couple nights ago, and is everyone's horror movie expert. What was that one called? Oddity. There's a feel-good movie Here's a new character coming into the film. They ought to be dead horribly in just a few minutes. Anyway, and of course, our special guest star tonight, The Wolf, joining us. Dirk was here. King TL was here. Infowar was here. And thank you all for being here. The Duke, John's cat, Xavier, visiting us from the Dabbleverse. Dabbleverse. And Gilman as well. So thanks to everybody for showing up. Let's see here. Jared can't wait. And Scott has a remark that I'm not going to put on the screen because it's really mean-spirited. See, that's the kind of thing that, you know, if an anvil falls on your head and you don't make it till Sunday, you'll know why. Karma. That's why. Karma. Yeah, mister. I'm going to join their Discord and make some dinner. Be over there in just a few minutes. But I'm looking at that old clock on the wall, and it says, like the Reverend Al Green, it's time for me to get on up out of here. As for yourself, well, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I think I will see you guys tomorrow. Members only show. We'll be going over some more highlights from my podcasts. And then, of course, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have the legendary Scott from Australia telling us all about Australia Day. And I'm going to say that'll probably be about a 60% factual show. Sure, 60%. Monday night, we're doing a show on the Tucker, the legendary car. And then Tuesday night, Get Smart. Wednesday night, the vampire fish, which will swim up your John Thomas, your wee-wee, your dude waver. Or in the case of a lady, if it can get to your urethra, it'll swim up there and drain you of blood, and it's got fins that don't allow it to be pulled out easily. Vampire fish. Tell your friends about that one. Rumple Trenchcoat says, great show. See you folks tomorrow. And we will see you tomorrow, noon Eastern Time. Till next time, we'll see you next. Whoa. Hold on. One more quote. Urethra, my urethra. Who needs it? Exactly. Anybody's urethra. Urethra Franklin. Anyway, till next time, we'll see you next time.